Everybody ready? Yeah. We're not sure about moderators, so we're just going to start. Yeah, over there. I'm Nancy Brown. I'm with the City of Winston-Salem. We're an Office 365 shop, and this is...
I'm Gary Koontz with the County of Forsyth, and we're a Google App shop. So we're going to take like 20 minutes to speak, so I'll have let Lindsay go first. And I'm Mike. I'm a long talker, so I might run out of time. So I'll let you guys do it.
Okay. And from the Microsoft shop, we have Scott Sample. Many of you know Scott. He's been around Nickel Jesus for
13 years.
13 years, and he's a walking, talking encyclopedia as well. It's like, if you don't know, ask Scott. But I'm going to let Scott start and talk about the platform a little bit, and then I'm going to jump in with how the platform and how the Office 365 cloud services are working for us, and goods, bads, and whatever, and then we'll let Gary and the Google group go.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully I've met a number of you here, but if you don't know me, I'm the Cloud Success Manager for the Carolinas for Microsoft. So my primary charter is to make sure when you buy our cloud products, which is really just a matter of when, that you actually get value out of them and use what you purchase. Because we have a habit on IT, whereas Mecklenburg County CIO would say, we have a habit of installation but not realization. And so our job is to make sure that you realize the value of this. So, really, our cloud is more than just Office 365. It's also about a set of security tools that govern and manage your identity and security, because whether you know it or not, the edge is different. It's not your firewall, it's your identity. And so making sure we secure that to circumvent a lot of attacks is an important piece of cloud and potentially your use and or securing Office 365, possibly even around CJIS compliant activity in that regard. Azure, our data center in the cloud, and CRM Online, your platform for business applications. This is our slide that just has tons of large organizations out across the United States, in fact, including the state of North Carolina. And are you guys on there? Yeah. So Winston-Salem has the honor of being the very first state and local government customer that ever went on BPOS, which we didn't do so great on the acronym, right? POS generally means things. And so she went through a lot of pain and suffering, but I think really liked where they were enough that they've continued to expand and adopt Office 365 through the years. And so pretty much every large municipality and most of the large counties in the state are already on Office 365 or possibly going there. And one of the reasons is it's the familiar products that you all are used to. You can do this very granularly based on what you need. So if you want to do just Exchange, and that's where Nash County started, right? They did just email and laser focused on that. You can go all the way down to $1.50 a user per month for a delivered service. Or if you want a messaging solution that can replace webinar type functions, Skype for Business does that, instant messaging, presence, and so on. In fact, we even now have a PSTN calling option that you can go in and add dialed-in conferencing capability and scale out conferencing capability for up to 10,000 users in a meeting. So I think we could do even county commissioner or city council meetings through this mechanism. It can be recorded. Of course, Office, right? A lot of folks, county in South Carolina, thought, we can get away without this Office thing for everybody. And very, very quickly, it turned out very, very differently, and so they went and acquired through this Office. But one of the nice things is that it's on a subscription basis. So you've got flexibility, unlike our old agreements where you had to treat everybody the same regardless of what they did. You can go in and get just the tools that are necessary for the individuals in your organization. So we see a great mixture of those, and I think Nancy will probably support that with her comments. And then, of course, SharePoint Online, which is also OneDrive, right? So think a replacement for Box or some of those other file sharing tools. But the nice thing is, it's under your governance, your e-discovery, your security rules, and we even have the ability to put a wrapper around the content so that if I deliver this to you outside my security boundary, I can determine that you only have rights to read that content for a week, and then it ceases to be readable. Or if I don't put a timer on it, I can actually go out and say, so-and-so is not using this the way I intended, I'm going to yank it back, and I also get chain of custody reporting and who opened it, when, that feeds back into my email system for e-discovery. And then this is all underlying around the investment in identity that you've all already made in Active Directory. You can choose cloud-only IDs if you wish, but we can have that same familiar logon for the users, the same password, and in fact, in a federated model, you can go in and leverage the login for your computers, your domain-joined devices, to automatically log in to these cloud services. And in fact, that also gives us some interesting policy control where we can say, we require multi-factor authorization for folks that are outside our known networks, but inside our known networks, we're not going to challenge you because you're already in a vetted environment there. And we believe our risk is a lot less in those environments. And then lastly, it's really about trust. So one of the things that Microsoft is unique in this space is we've done the hard work on compliance on a state-by-state basis to go, in our case, in this state, Brian Dickerson over at the SBI, and walk through with a bunch of documents around our policies and procedures, the background checks for the US citizens that remotely or physically access your data, and then adjudicated for CJIS in this state. We've done that for South Carolina and a number of other states across the US. We've got over 50% of the states, and we're knocking down the rest of them as we work through the deals. Because CJIS compliance is actually an opinion by that individual that's the head of CJIS at a particular state so that you're ready for an audit. Azure, CRM Online, and EMS all fall under that CJIS adjudicated umbrella. So that's one of the very important things. And in fact, we just had a conversation with the SBI. The director's in there, loves Office 365 from the prior place that he was at. And so he's pushing them, because of security, to move to Office 365. So I'll be around for any questions after the fact, but I'll turn it over to Nancy.
I'm going to piggyback off of some of the things that Scott said. He mentioned the different components and how, I think you said Nash County started out with email-only Exchange Online. We have a combination right now. We have 3 different subscriptions that we include in our environment. We have 800 what we call kiosk users. That's email only. Those are for our deskless users, our folks in the field, but we do need for them to be able to access city resources, and we do need for them to be able to communicate via email when we have announcements and things to send out. So those folks, like I said, it's a small footprint type thing. They don't have access to all the resources on the back end, like that terabyte of storage space, but they don't need it. So we're able to pick and choose things that fit our needs. Our police and fire, their email accounts, the majority of them are what we call Exchange Online Plan 2. That includes an archiving and an e-discovery feature so that we can keep those emails, and as Scott was talking about, being able to control the documents and own those, pull them back in, same sort of thing that we can do with our emails. So when we get a request through our city attorney to go and search for content about a particular subject, we're able to go and do that and pull those out for those, or put a legal hold on it if necessary for those items. And of course, we can do the same sort of thing with the documents if they're stored in that SharePoint Online OneDrive environment. And then finally, we have the Office Pro Suite that he talked about. We have 985 of those licenses right now. We are on Plan E3, and we're about to come up on our EA renewal. That'll be in February, and we're looking at potentially migrating some of those subscriptions from E3 to E5. Not sure exactly if we'll do all of them or just some percentage of them. But that's the beauty of being on the subscription-based service. Every year when you true up, it's not that traditional true up where, okay, we're locked into this for 3 years. We are able to adjust our quantities up, but we can also adjust them down. When we did our EA renewal last year, we actually increased the number of those kiosk licenses that I talked about for the deskless users. We upped that from 600 to 800, and we dropped down in the number of those Office 365 Pro licenses because we realized we had people that were assigned to those that really did not need that content. So we actually saved some money and delivered more services to our customers. So, that was a boon for us, and it's our ability to take care of that. And when you're doing that EA, and I will say, one of the most critical pieces is to have a good partner for that. We have an excellent partner. Am I allowed to say who our partner is?
Sure, I would expect.
We use Software One, and David Williams is our representative. He does an excellent job with us on our EA renewals. He's on site multiple times. I can reach out to him and get very accurate and thorough quotes. And if there's questions about anything with any of the SKUs, if he can't answer it, he gets someone on the phone or in a webinar that can answer it. But if we think we might want something in the next year, we can just add one subscription, kind of like in the old true-up days. We can just add one of those on the EA and then move to it as we need it. So that gives us a lot of flexibility, like I said, that we did not have before. Another thing that we've seen as we've moved into the cloud environment, it's kind of a hybrid state. We still have a lot of services that go on locally. And so, how you have to have your Windows CAL. Well, Microsoft has recognized that you're already paying for a CAL basically in the cloud. And then if you have to pay for that user CAL on premise, you're double dipping. And so what we do when we move into the cloud, we have this thing called a bridge CAL. And so again, when we looked at the numbers and actually break it down, that cost of that on-premise CAL, it goes away, and we have a much, much smaller cost for that bridge CAL that allows us to live and work in both environments. So it seems like sometimes, gosh, that's a lot of money, but when we break it down, it's really not changing for us over time, but we're getting a lot more value as things come along.
That's true, that license in the cloud allows you to access and run the services in the cloud, but it also, in that same breath, if you're not ready to move yet, also allows you to continue running things in your on-prem environment so that you're truly only paying one fee to be able to do the best of both worlds in a hybrid environment.
One of the things that we're looking at as we look for this new EA is, what do you call it now, the Windows as a service, what's it?
Windows per user.
Yes, it's called Windows per user. So we've always had device licensing on our devices. And then we had the email licenses, and that's per user, and the Office is tied to that per user. And we realized, or we're starting to realize that, we've really got more device licenses out there than we have devices, just because, things have changed over time. And so we will probably move that licensing from device licensing to a subscription license. And again, when you crunch the numbers, it's a wash because the CAL goes away, because the CAL is included now in that Windows subscription license. So, it's just changing and evolving, but it's allowing us to do so much more because you're not tied to that one device. Oh my gosh, I can only put it on one of those things. But what if I have a tablet? What if I have some other end user device now that I want to use? And how do I deal with that? Do I need a license for every single one of them? Or does that license follow me?
Yeah. And that's a really good point, is that we're seeing more a shift to user-based licensing because the separation between work and home is getting very blurry. Even in you all as government customers, where there's typically been a hard separation. Some of these tools help us compartmentalize the data so that we can securely on a device have personal data as well as enterprise data. And when you leave the organization, all the enterprise data is inaccessible on your devices if those are ones that are of a personal nature that you get to keep. And on the device-based licensing, we have had Office in that vein for most of us. And Office 365 shifts that to a user-based license. But last year, we actually changed the Windows-based licensing where you can get that per user as well. So those that are considering VDI as a delivery option, that means I have a license for me that walks with me to the devices that I would consume that VDI license through, or that VDI desktop through. And what we mean by it's for you is Office can be installed on up to 5 PC and Mac devices. You can go right to portal.office.com and click the install button. I walked the city of Charlotte's new marketing director on her brand new Mac. I said, log in to portal.office.com, where are you going to install Office? She goes, well, there's a big orange button that says install Office in the middle of the screen. I said, that's it. And 5 minutes later, she had full rich Office for Mac on her Macintosh device. So it's a rolling window of 5 though. So if she just gets a lot of devices and rolls to the 6th, it's just going to say which one you wish to deactivate. And then it lights up that one. It doesn't deinstall, right? So if this machine gets handed down to somebody else, they just log in with credentials with an active subscription, and it lights it back up. Plus, you get Office on 5 tablet devices, so think iOS and Android. Plus, you get Office on 5 phone devices, think iOS, Android, Windows Phone, maybe a few. We're still trying. There's a cool new HP phone downstairs as well. So it really means that Office can move with you. And we did the analysis on Nancy's environment, and with the number of devices that they would have to buy, not only do they have ultimate flexibility, but it actually saved them money to switch to Office 365 from the old way that they were doing it.
Yeah, it was just the device licensing alone for Office, not counting the Windows, it was a $97,000 difference that just went off the books by doing that and going to the subscription. And the rise in cost to move to that level of subscription was nowhere near $97,000. So again, we were able to take that and add more services in other places because look, we got money, we got extra money. So that was good for us. And I want to talk a little bit about OneDrive. It's really cool. I love it. We haven't turned it on for the entire organization. We're still vetting through some of that, but I've been testing it, and it's absolutely fabulous because I don't have to take the thumb drive home anymore, and I don't have to remember to bring it back. I don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just there. And so I've moved at least the last 3 years worth of files to my OneDrive account, and I just go to them just like anything else. I'll pull them up. If I save a document at 6:45 because it's like, I've got to get home, my dogs are standing there crossing their legs and not somebody's got to let them out, and I go home and I fire it up and I pull it back up, the document comes right back to exactly the same place where I left it. Or if you go to a meeting and you pull it up on a tablet, it jumps right back to where it was. So it's keeping all that for you. And then there's all the versioning and stuff, and I can share it, collaborate with other individuals. So if I want to share a file with Todd Porter that I see back there, just making sure he's awake. If I want to share, it's afternoon, so it's such if I want to share a file with Todd and collaborate on it, I can share that file with him, and we can go back and forth. He doesn't necessarily see all my other files. He only sees that one, but I've shared it with him, and then we can continue to work on it. And that's something that, is really valuable, and you don't have to, like, well, yeah, you can do that with SharePoint, but we don't have to set up and manage that SharePoint infrastructure. That's one of the things that always scared us about SharePoint. Gosh, it's going to take a whole FTE to support that. And Scott does that for me now. So, all I have to do is just say, hey, I want to share it. There it is, boom, and it sends him an email and says, this file's been shared with you. He can click on it, he's got it, and from there he can do all he wants to with it, or I can share a whole folder. So that's amazing productivity that we've been able to realize. And then some of the last thing I want to say, because 2:27, so I want to give you guys equal time. There are a lot of features and functionality that get added to the Cloud Suite. And you don't have to wait for your anniversary date. When they're available, they're available. And as administrators, you can control whether you're going to make them accessible to your users, or whether you want to wait and do some kind of announcement or training or what have you. You get to control that, but you don't have to install any of that stuff. It's just there. And a lot of times these features that are being added, you're like, oh, there's a new one that's due to be released to the government cloud very soon. It's called Planner, and it's like a mini version of project management, and just having the small work groups be able to use that kind of technology and use those tools just for planning and organizing things. You don't need that full-blown copy of Microsoft Project, but we've actually had people say, we need a tool. Can you find us some software that'll do this? Well, guess what? It's part of our subscription now, and we just have to make it available to folks so that they can start to use it. And these things just sort of keep coming along, and they do keep adding things, and that, again, saves us some cost and keeps me from having to have somebody develop something.
Yep. I think go ahead, you got a question?
Yeah, what's the difference between doing it that way and using Google Docs?
So
That's their presentation.
Okay.
so I would tell you in our space, right, you're using the native Office file formats that can be edited in the web browser as well as the rich client. So you've got a lot more capability behind the documents, and of course the ability for IT to centrally e-discover, control, manage, secure, even beyond the endpoint, and it's all included versus having some add-on components. But yes, if you're looking at a class between the two, right, SharePoint/OneDrive and Google Sites and Docs and Google Drive are similar features as far as what you use between the two.
Okay.
And I think we'll tell you what, we'll lay questions now. We'll let Gary and Mike do their session, and then we'll have time at the end, I think, particularly since we're the last session of the day, we can answer a whole bulk of questions. So lastly, I'll say that with all of these capabilities that simply just work at a low cost point, relative particularly to what you may have invested in the past, this is what's led a number of your peers to come by our booth at Nickel Giza and say, you know what, Scott? I've been an IT director, CIO for a long time, and Office 365 has been one of the best decisions that I've ever made, right? And that's not just blowing smoke. I truly have had a number of folks come up and say that. because it just simply works and gets out of the way. So thanks for your time, and we'll pass it over to Gary.
All right, so I'm going to take you on a little different approach from the standpoint of kind of give you more about our journey. And I'm not the only guy that's going to do it, so I've got a little baton and I can throw out to somebody else. So this is the happy dude, and I guess we got kind of a sad looking dude on the backside. So we'll go with the happy dude, right? Stay up there. So I'm going to throw it at somebody. If this little thing works. If it don't work, you can flip through them. So we're going to talk about Forsyth County. I'm Gary Koontz, CTO for Forsyth County. So going through kind of Forsyth County's journey and how we got there. Oh, it worked. Look at that. So first of all, we'll start out with a little bit of background and kind of tell you how we came, the beginning of our journey standpoint. We found ourselves in a really kind of cool sweet spot for years, and then the bad economy came, so we got to stay in there. So we had a situation where, Windows XP, running Office 2003 local, it worked great. Didn't really need any more features for the most part. Everybody was happy until Microsoft said, oh, by the way, we're going to discontinue support in, of course, 2014. So we got a few years out of our original install base on that. So as it was going on, we looked at it. One of the key things about Forsyth County in our environment is we did not have Office on our enterprise agreement. And we also, for the most part, did not carry software assurance on it. So it was one of the situations where we was going to have to rebuy Office or add it to an enterprise agreement. We have a component, I'm probably wrong, I'm sure I'm wrong from the terminology.
That's right.
A component enterprise agreement that covered our servers and of course the cows needed for the PCs and so forth, but we did not have that. So we was looking at migrating to Windows 7. Our current product versions was no longer supported, whether it's XP or Office 2003. So how many in this room actually found yourself in a transition period to kind of have to face similar challenges? Interesting. Okay, we're the only ones. Great. So we were so far behind the curve that we ended up having to replace, gosh almighty, how many PCs? Like 1,500 PCs over the course of 2 years because we just didn't buy anything for a long time. So,
It's not just you, the legislature has to appropriate money for state agencies for capacity.
well, the only good thing that came out of that, well, there's a bunch of good things. One of the good things is we are on a replacement cycle now, so I did get funding for a replacement cycle for hardware. So that's kind of how we got to where we was. So we was looking at having to replace all the Office products with a buy because we didn't have it on EA, didn't have software assurance on it, had no upgrade path other than just essentially buying shrink wrap, right? So it's kind of how we got there. So here our goals were. This was back in 2000, started looking at 2012-ish, getting ready for the April 2014. It's April 14th, if I'm not mistaken, 2014. Day of moving infamy. So we kind of looked back and said, okay, well, we got to do something again. So what are we looking at? So here were some of our goals. Anytime, anywhere, any device access. You remember back kind of, it's like forever ago now, technology, the iPad was fairly new, right? And people actually still use flip phones, right? But some people was kind of going to this Android phone, these Apple phones, and stuff like that. So we thought, wouldn't it be really cool if we just didn't have to lug my laptop home, VPN in to work on a file? Because all of us in government, we always leave our stuff at work, we never work from home, right? But I got tired of carrying my dang laptop everywhere. So anyway, anytime, anywhere, anytime, any device. We also desired a hosted solution over an on-premise solution because, quite frankly, on-site talent gets more and more expensive every year, and it's harder for recruitment and retainment. So I would rather have people that can do a lot of stuff that you really can't, I hate to use the word outsource, but partner with, and move to, again, to meet our anywhere, any device access. We could do that on premise. It takes a lot of work, a lot of talented people, and actually a lot of money. And also we're looking at, and again, our phraseology is multi-point collaboration tool set. So I'm really excited that you are excited about OneDrive and about the online collaboration in SharePoint, because that's an awesome thing. When we looked at it, and I'll get into that in just a minute, we looked at the BPOS product, and it's exactly right. It was what? It was not there. We could do kind of the moving it up and moving it down, but it requires some Office on premise to do some of that. So this was really kind of cool. We kind of grasped early on the concept of man, what if we could work on stuff at the same time and not have to remember to hit the save button and not have to remember to stick on a flash drive? All these things you're talking about. It was really cool. We was looking at that. And so it was like, yep, this will do it. And we wanted to empower our users. And by that I mean just make the choices. When do you want to work? How do you want to work on? What device do you want to work on in front? So we realized that our, at that time, antique equipment just wasn't cutting it. So we went through a process of evaluating solutions. So we did an analysis of our office client install. We looked at adding it to our EA. Actually, we thought there for a short time that was going to be a hit for us, and politics got involved. And then we looked at the Office 365 offering, which at that time was called BPOS. I believe was always after when we looked at it. And that was really truly was a hybrid kind of model. And of course, Google. So I'm kind of a technology guy. So when Google first came out, I started following. Now the terminology is Google's like Kleenex, right? So I'm gonna Google something. Whether you Google it, Bing it, how many of you remember web crawler? You guys are not near. Oh, I got a couple of people's older than me. Thank you. So, but it's kind of like Kleenex now. There you go. I'm gonna Google this. I'm gonna Google that. So of course we had to look at Google. I'm a tech guy, so I like looking at it. So it's kind of where we started from. We did an analysis of we got Office super users. Those people's got to have Office. Nothing else is going to work. And of course we asked the question. We honestly just had to ask the question: can Google do it? Can we do something other than Office? We did a lot of testing on that, and actually we tested our worst users, which is us, because as IT people, you support everything in your environment. So probably you have most every piece of software loaded on somebody's machine within your environment, right? So we stuck it out internal. So if we can do it, kind of like eat your own dog food approach. If we can do it, we feel like other people can too. And ultimately, out of the whole process, we issued a request for proposal. And here's the caveat to this. We did not go out for a particular solution. We actually issued an RFP on a cloud-based solution. Out of that, we had, this is about a long time ago, so I think 4 vendors replied with 6 or 7 different proposals. Out of that, at least 3 of them was Office 365 or Office, whatever it was called. I don't know.
BPOS.
It was BPOS. So anyway, it was the Office, the Microsoft solution, and the other was Google solutions. And at the end of the day, of course, Office 365, in order to gain the functionality I was looking for, did require a download. It was a hybrid approach. So at the end of the day, we ended up awarding an RFP to a Google Apps solution. So yeah, this is not my slide. So I think this is where I'm throwing to somebody, right? Who's got this one?
What if you're going to go give it the whole way?
So this is Mike Beeson with Google. He's got one slide. Can I tell you a little bit about what?
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, but one slide and then we'll drop back, right?
It'll fill in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how we got to where we are.
We'll put the whole thing up there.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so I listed a couple of things that I think, so first of all, I've done this, not with Scott necessarily, but with Microsoft before. It's always great to go second. And not because we're going to be the Hillary Trump thing going on. We're all sick of that. But I usually get to say, everything you said, Scott, was exactly right. And important, whether it's compliance, whether it's governance around Drive. This is all very important and critical. We have it all too. And so I get to start where you left off. And I think we both know that BPOS is really not even competition. And as time goes on, Microsoft does more and more of things that we're doing. And maybe we're learning from you as well. Either way, it's good to have healthy competition. Here are some of the things I think that are very different. Sometimes very different, sometimes not. But distinguishing between Google and Microsoft. The world is just in a browser. And so we came at it saying, instead of having 100 applications on a device that you have to manage, it would be nice to have one application that accesses 100 applications in the cloud. We're not all there yet. We don't have all of our applications are not in the cloud. But I think we all see that that's the future too. In the cloud being whatever you want to define by cloud, whether it's a private cloud, public cloud, whatever you want to call it, but it won't be, let's say, on the device. And having everything be able to function via browser is the first step. And it also frees, as Gary mentioned, the idea of we need to be get you out of this patch, release, security update, every couple of years do a massive refresh, and of course we have to do a refresh or an update. Does the operating system need to be updated? Does the computer, can the computer handle that? Let's get you out of that. Let's get you focused on things that are more important, and that's where I think that's very important. I've already mentioned any device, any OS, anytime. It's very important. When we all launched computers for the first time, if we did, I was around. I used to manage a mail server in a closet that handled for 15 people at that computer. It was one device per person. It was the same device. Everyone got the exact same thing. But we know that council members and mayors had different computing needs than IT staff, than administrators, than public works, than park and recs. We need to pick a device that suits their needs. And we can't have a technology behind it that limits that. And I think that's where Google does better. Because, well, pretty good at mobile. This guy, Android, smiley face, has 80% market share in the world, 60% in the US. And even despite those numbers, we have more iOS engineers than we do Android engineers. As we know, we have to do this. It has to go to function. How many here have iOS devices? So that's, come on, that's more. So something, that's a pretty good number. That's about 25%, 30%. Typically, it's higher than that in government.
Yeah.
Government's around 45% on average. When I talk to customers across the nation, 55% Android, 45 iOS. The younger the audience, the more iOS, whatever. And we have to be able to do both. And so we build with mobile in mind. In fact, our engineers on Tuesdays and Thursdays aren't allowed to bring their laptop to meetings. They have to bring a mobile device. We want them to be dog fooding their products. It has to be able to function. And so you'll see more and more of fun features like being able to build a slide deck on your phone is capable, fully capable with the device. So you see, maybe you have kids, and often they have Google as their base. And as much as we think I can't create content unless I have a keyboard, I have to have a full computer. They don't have any such beliefs. They can do it all through their phone. I think that's going to be more and more the future. That's why you see features. You mentioned how as features come out, they're just sort of added on. Things like voice to text. It's a beautiful. Once you get invested in this world of browser, cloud computing world, I don't have to go and say, now let me launch this new utility, this new software package. It just rolls out. Has to be judicious. Has to be careful. Some things have to be, you'd allow it. So when you have video conferencing, like we have here, we can launch fully part of the product, all in the browser again, but you can decide whether it's released or not, and who gets it, and what happens, what controls they have. That's important. Collaboration without asterisks, that just means, a Drive and collaboration world, fantastic, right? Talk about, you mentioned Google Docs. It's really powerful. I can share a doc with everyone on the side, at least 50 people at a time right now. We all could be in the same document doing something at the exact same time, all in different operating systems, different devices. Fantastic, right? But we also have to have governance. So maybe I can make it where you only half of you get view only. You get to edit. A couple of people will have a time limit. Maybe I can make sure that you're not sharing it beyond the domain, or you're only sharing it with trusted partners. This is all part of the Google experience. It's important to have governance. It's an important collaboration feature, but you have to have governance. We can have that. We're more on the cloud. Not just means that, the fact that leverage Google's resources for our 750 security engineers, or 500 privacy engineers, whatever it is, the numbers are, it doesn't matter, you get the idea. Leverage our computers for you and our redundancies of scale, our uptime of, we do 99.9, but it's really like 99.94 last year. We don't have any maintenance windows. Leverage that. We're cloud first. Everything we do is in the cloud. So, more importantly, so I think the last two are interesting. I mentioned in the beginning, it would be nice if our devices were just one thing, a window to apps in the cloud or powerful computing, whatever you want it, Azure apps, cloud platform, AWS. It really doesn't matter, but a window to that. And that opens the world to a device that's like a Chromebook or something like where it's just, there's nothing really on that device. You log in with your credentials, two-factor, fine, two-factor, we have required two-factor, we require security keys. I can log in, I can access everything I need. And then when I close that laptop or I sign off or whatever it is, there's nothing on it. I could come in the next day and grab a device and do my work from that device. In fact, we all could just come into work, grab a device, do our jobs. We could go home, we can log from home computers, all of the controls and governance. But that's the world of the future. That's why we had thumb drives for a while, right? We used to carry thumb drives because we weren't trying to steal information, we were trying to stay productive. The world is now dry, but with and frankly, the Chrome world, that's why the Chromebook now outsells iPads in schools, and it's the most popular education is because it's shareable. It's stateless. That's the future of computing, I think. I think it's maybe we do a lot of virtual, right? Hey, let's virtualize this machine because it's just easier to access, to have it where I can have any device do that. And then lastly, machine learning. We're all doing it. We're all working on machine learning. That's exciting. The idea, and listen, it started out real lightweight. I'm Googling something that's autofilling. How'd they know that I was looking for that? That's creepy. It just really realize that a lot of people are searching for something similar to that. And maybe with a little bit of your profile, we know what you're doing. But we also could do things like, what are we doing lately? So if you ever, who uses Google at all? Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets. So there's a little something on the bottom right what I challenge you all to do, is hit Explore. When you're in a Google Sheet with data, you hit Explore at the bottom right. And this is a feature that just came out a couple months ago, I guess. Just constantly happens. It will look at the data and say, you know what, based on the data I see, I think you want this type of graph or this type of information. So last week I was doing a presentation to teach teachers on how to use Google Sheets. And I was watching Titanic with my family, I don't know why. And I copied and pasted all the survivors, and I put it into a sheet, and then I said, you know what, let's look at what Google tells me. Google gave me one pie chart about the class of, what class of people had the best survival rates, what's the histogram of the average age, where was the part of the original. I didn't ask for it, I hate doing I hate doing pivot tables, I can do that in Google Sheets by the way. I hate doing all that stuff, but it just said, this is what I think you need. That's where machine learning is going. Let's give you information that you think you need and want at the time you want it. And Google's doing a lot of it right now. That's kind of that's kind of the magic. I kind of went a little bit off, a little bit long. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to throw it back. We'll answer questions after that. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jason Rennie. Part of the team that helped migrate over to the cloud with Google. We were Exchange Shop, Exchange 2007. First thing we did was we started using Google ourselves as the MIS department. Like Harry said, we wanted to get on golf too, so we started using the product ourselves so we could learn about it. We got training for all the admins, so we could learn how to use the consoles, that kind of thing. Then we started doing some self-marketing. We produced some marketing materials, put out across the county, started marketing things. We started looking into our user training. We had lots of options. We had classroom training available. We had webinars available. We had some online training. So we wanted to get people familiar with what was coming. And then as we got a little bit of buy-in, let people know what was coming, we ended up getting a pilot group of users together. What did we call those, Rob? Early guides. And they were the early adopters. So we set a subset of users up. Felt like people who are really interested in migrating, we got them on board with us, empowered them to use the product, and kind of helped them be evangelists of the product within the departments, because like most everybody knows, we have multiple departments we support, so it was important to get people in each department. And then we proceeded on to the technical pieces where we created the users, performed the migration of mail, the calendars and contacts in that order. Then also, of course, we had shared contacts and shared calendars. We use various tools to perform those type of things, and we did it on a department-based schedule. We went by department, so it just wasn't like flip the switch and everybody in the county was using it. We went on a department-based schedule. We use GADS to import users, which stands for Google Active Directory Sync, I believe. That also allows us to import all of our groups over from Active Directory and the users and sync changes when those happen. And then we use GAMI, which is Google Apps Migration Tool from Microsoft Exchange, to actually migrate the mail into the new Google mailboxes. It doesn't delete an email from their Exchange mailboxes. We still have all that information. It just copies it over and gives us statistics and stuff. You know, how many failures there were, so we can go back and remedy them, more successes. It's now called GSME, which is G Suite for Microsoft Exchange migration. Then we migrated our spam filters and settings, our whitelist, and all your SMTP relays. Those are things that you can easily forget about. You want to make sure that you, for those domains you have whitelisted, you want to make sure that those subdomains are set up in your new environment. And then also we did away with one of our SMTP relays that we have some of our different copiers and things sitting there. We're now using Google for those things, so we were able to eliminate the servers from that. We kept our Exchange 2007 environment up for about a year after this, and then we archived it off to a Source 1 product, the EMC product that we have archived off to. We still have that data in Source 1, but we do not have our Exchange environment anymore. And the last part of it was we started transitioning, similar to what the city's doing, we started transitioning people into the Drive environment with documents and spreadsheets and offering training for that, which can be a bit of a slower process because there's lots of learning. People have to get comfortable with it, but we are seeing some pretty high adoption rates with it. And that's the piece that we still we work on. We still have work with departments to get some of those things transitioned, but I think our adoption rate is pretty good. I think we have a slide to show you a little bit later. So I'm going to pass it on to Robin Lloyd to tell us about all the lessons that we learned.
None of the bullets on this slide are going to surprise anyone. There are none that are related to technology. What do you think they're related to?
People being used to using a Microsoft thing.
Do not underestimate the impact of change. We had 1,800 users, and we were changing out an extensively used tool set. So you were going to notice a hit to productivity and just in general. The learning curve, as Jason said, we did extensive training, but training will not alleviate the learning curve. That takes time, it takes them getting in there and using it, and you have to keep offering timely support, in-depth support. And as Jason mentioned, our Google Guides, we were able to leverage that as a resource. There were more of them than there were of us, so we had to have help. So we took our savvy users in the departments and got them up to speed, and our users knew they were the first line of support. That actually was one of our big successes, and I think we utilize that model in other big projects. Social implementation, the acceptance of change. One of my favorite sayings is the difference between an adventure and an ordeal is attitude. And we all know how hard it is to get buy-in from our users. They're busy, they're under a lot of pressure, and they just want to get their job done and get home. So this is a challenge. And if you do not have buy-in from key people, then staff will not buy in also. So you absolutely want to make sure you've got the right sponsorship for the project and that everyone knows that productivity is going to be affected and it's going to take some time to get where you want to be. If you haven't done a analysis of your user demographics, I recommend you do it. Our HR department actually did it a few months after we had implemented this project, and the information would have been very helpful, I think. We skewed high toward the baby boomer demographic, and of course we know that they are more distrustful of technology, and they also prefer traditional classroom training. So that's good information to know when you're trying to target your user base and how best to reach you. When we did the analysis of Microsoft usage and how our departments, interacted with each other, one thing that you need to do is go that second level. MIS is a service department. We typically look at, we're servicing the other county departments. Well, what we found was there was a lot of interaction by those departments with everybody, doctor's offices, general contractors, hospitals. So you have to have solutions for that also. So when you're providing a solution internally, you have to, determine how are they going to share a document outside, the internal agency. I'm going to talk really fast now, so we have time for questions. This one surprised me a little bit when we were in the middle of implementation. There was a TV show that came on, and there was a sitcom, and the husband looked at the wife and said, "You've got to start putting your stuff in the cloud." And she was like, "Well, what exactly is the cloud?" And he was like, "Nobody knows." And it occurred to me that that's how our users felt. We were talking about cloud and how wonderful it was, and all they heard was blah, 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 blah. Is my data safe? Do I trust this? Do I want to do this? It's very important to understand the climate of your user environment so you can produce relevant education and get them on board. I thought that was an interesting little cartoon there. It kind of shows some of the misconceptions. 3 years later, we've been in the Google Shop for 3 years now. This is our adoption rates, and I think the key point in this slide is showing how much access there is from mobile devices and from different platforms on those mobile devices. So our users have realized the benefit of the any device, anytime, anywhere.
And this last slide, the next to last slide, just kind of represents a report, a highlight report that we could get out of the Google Apps admin console that kind of gives some numbers up to October 16th of how many pieces of mail that we passed over the past fiscal month, 1.9 million. Gives you an idea of how many users we have. Just quick snapshots that you can, all these links are hoverable, you can get real-time statistics. Down at the bottom, it shows you the document link share status of how many is shared externally, how many internally. So it's just real easy. I just wanted to demonstrate it's real easy to get a lot of information out of the console to get the reports that you need to prove the value that Google is bringing to you. That's it. I think we have one more slide, Robin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah. So it's thunder and lightning. Isn't God being angry? It's Microsoft and Google. That's all we have.
So let's open up the questions.
Mike's got about 2 to 3 minutes for door prizes over there. So if you guys have questions, I appreciate your attention. Any questions?
You can leave, you can ask questions.
You can go to the door prize.